Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win in the Saturday Night Racing League Cup Series. What a finish!
Too little, too late from behind, and Sebastian Marin, your first repeat top split winner of the qualifying series.
We knew it was just a matter of time when Hunter Sr. is victorious.
Josh Adams taking the win at Iowa. GC Spider Motorsports takes home the 1-2-3 finish.
Today, the Simu Nation LMGT3 Masters, powered by NOX Gaming and brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing, flies out to Texas to the Circuit of the Americas for round 6 of its season. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince, alongside me is Mike Noss. Our producer is Sigur Bakshi here on V-Speed. Tonight's coverage, as always, brought to you by Simu Nation and powered in turn by the many partners such as those over at NOX Gaming. Shop for all major sim racing brands under one roof. NOX Gaming also offers PC building services throughout Canada. Tonight also powered and brought to you through Wolf Sim Racing, which builds the high-end gear that makes the difference. Precision engineered dashboards and mods designed for ultimate performance. Don't just play the game, live it. Mike, as we get ready to go, we're coming up towards the home stretch, past the halfway point now in the season, and this is our last stop in the States at the very least. 2 more European destinations are left to go on the season, but tonight it's going to be surely a challenge with this very technical track.
It certainly is, Justin. We have Spa and we have Le Mans coming up, but this track, COTA, is a little bit more of a tricky mistress, and we'll definitely dive into that one here tonight. Before that, though, we can take a look here at our point standings with Xavier Chamberlain leading the points off here with 3 wins to his name so far, been the most dominant driver. However, don't count Christopher Larson out. Still in second place, down 106 points. Certainly not out of the woods just yet. Max Messenev is going to be just behind in 3rd position with 290.7 points down off of Larson. Pierre Laporte down at 267 respectively in 4th, and Guillermo down in 5th. Delafonte coming home in 6th with Paré in 7th. Richard in 8th, Cedric Coutier in 9th, and Steve Ward rounding out your top 10. But Justin, that top 10 is a lot closer than you would expect due to the fact that the points rewards here that we have when it comes to the scoring is quite high. Winners getting 85 points, second getting 76, third 68, and so on. This is really anyone's ball game.
Especially with the potential that we'll have to see for some of the drivers. But tonight, we'll have a challenging course on hand, Mike. It's time to look at your track guide. Get brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing. It'll be Chamberlain will be on the car, talk us through the lap.
This is a difficult lap here at COTA. Nearly 50 plus gear changes throughout, and it all begins here. The climb up the hill towards Big Red. A long sweeping left-hand corner, one of your best overtaking opportunities. Clip that curb though on your inside in the hot lap, and this is where you gotta buckle up. This is the roller coaster sector that everybody either loves or hates if you drive this track. Hit the curb on the left, hit the curb on the right, hit the curb on the left again. You guessed it. Hit the curb on the right. You're going to be repeating that for a bit here through the S's. As you go and tighten it up, though, towards the end here, hit the final curb on the left. Nope, that's what you thought. There's still a few more left here. We got one more left-hander after this where you can start to straighten it up and head down the hill for one of the better overtaking opportunities as you go down towards turn 12. A good spot and a good lunge. Long way though onto the brakes here, and you get onto the accelerator much earlier than expected. Be careful though with the track limits. That white line is the track limits at all points throughout this track except for in the final corner. This is when you get a little bit of a breathing room to straighten it out on the way down towards turn 12. Take a sip of your water bottle, look down at your dials, make sure your temperatures are good and ready. And if you are following someone, use that slipstream to make a nice lunge here down into turn 12 to set yourself up for the arena sector. This is where you lose the time or make the time. Long right-hander, double apex corner pretty much as you go through the horseshoe and onto the accelerator now down through the arena sector. This next corner, a very tricky hairpin. Again, not many overtaking opportunities you're going to be finding through here. And this corner being such a crucial one to capitalize the speed. A triple apex horseshoe bend. Hit every curb as we go on through and ride it all the way down here on the right-hand side into the braking zone of 19. This is where you have to be more careful though. The track limits is going to be a little bit tighter on the exit, but as we go through the final corner here, use all of the track to our advantage. Hit the loud pedal, and that is going to be one lap here at COTA and 20 corners done.
As we've done, brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing here for your track guide. As Circuit of the Americas, a massive circuit overall with 3.42 miles, we'll have to say. It's going to really put some of the drivers to their paces over the course of this race here in Austin, Texas. And in particular, it might be a challenge in terms of making sure you don't get into some off-tracks possibly.
Yeah, off-tracks being a big role here. Again, with a 75-minute race, the drivers are really going to be having to lean on these tires for a long period of time, and here at COTA, that can be a real issue. There is a lot of turns to the left and right. It's 11 to the left and 9 to the right. Very even, very balanced, but your tires are going to be screaming by the end of your first stint.
We'll keep an eye on that over the course of the 75-lap race. Qualifying currently getting all set to go for these drivers tonight. And track position, yet again, going to be a massive consideration. But we do have a fair amount of new drivers making some of their first appearances the entire season tonight, Mike. So a few drivers starting to get their availabilities opening up to be able to hit the track and looking to try and see if they can contend with the series' top drivers as these cars get themselves starting off qualifying in the next moment.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask for a new driver coming into this series, but we absolutely love to see it. And with that, a nice little segue to say a big, massive thank you to everybody that tunes into these series on the YouTubes and everywhere else on the internet. And also, if you want to get involved with this, head down in the description, check out the link over to the SimGrid, and you can find a link here to join one of Quebec's finest communities and get involved here at Simu Nation. It's a great place if you want to get out on the grid. You might not have the opportunity to win the prizes that are here for this season, which, speaking of the prizes, first place receiving a $250 NOX Gaming gift card plus an official trophy. Second place receiving $125 plus NOX Gaming gift card plus an official trophy, and third, getting some sim racing gloves from NOX Sim Racing, plus, yes, you guessed it, an official trophy. What everybody really wants at the end of this season. And we're getting down to it, as you mentioned, Justin. We kind of only have 2 races, well, 3 races left if you include this one. And the points, well, you could really throw a blanket over, especially our top 6 right now, barring Xavier Chamberlain, who's kind of made his way into the lead. But that's only really due to the fact that Chris Larson had a DNS at one, or a DNF, excuse me, at the second or third round at Monza.
Yes, indeed. Right now, as the clock already moves its way forward, the other question that might come up in terms of preferences here tonight, do you think there's a certain car that will stand out? to change the shuffle of the conversation at that end here for the BOP, or which cars do you think will perform the best and which ones do you think will struggle based on the chassis characteristics tonight?
You know, we've seen a very good balance throughout this entire season, really, when we talk about the manufacturer's spread. I mean, obviously we've seen Xavier Chamberlain at the top quite a bit, but I don't think it necessarily matters what car you give him. He'll probably be somewhere in that top 5 running. But even still, we see the Ferraris, we see the McLarens, we see the Fords, we see a lot, except for really the Corvettes, the Aston Martins, and maybe the Porsches are the ones that I would say are maybe the non-standouts. Again, Xavier Chamberlain proving me wrong pretty handily every single time, running at the top of the ranks in that Porsche multiple times, along with Oliver Legrand as well, who's currently out on the track. But I'm really not too sure in terms of what manufacturer to pick in terms of favorites. We've seen advantages for both in terms of straight line speed and cornering, and here at COTA, it's really who has a balance of both.
And right now, you're seeing a few of these drivers trying to make sure they keep pretty stable on the course, the corners. See Pierre Laporte trying to work his way through the S's for a good measure. And with all these potential areas that will break up your rhythm, as you're talking about in the track guide here, you have to make sure you're on top of that, especially when you're amidst some of the dirty air tonight. That's going to be a very cruel spot for those that are in the mix of traffic.
Yeah, it certainly will be, and thankfully these LMGT3s, while yes, they are very, very aero dependent, at the end of the day, the dirty air doesn't seem to be the worst. You can certainly follow within a second of the car ahead. It gets a little bit dicey when you're in the S's if you're within that, but beyond that, I think we are going to be seeing some very good racing, especially at the start of the stints. A lot of this, though, in my opinion, is going to come down to the middle of this race, the 35 minutes in, the 45 minutes in, where the drivers are going to start to, well, lose the grip underneath their feet. The tires are going to start to wear out quite quickly. The fuel loads are going to get lighter, meaning the cars are going to get a little bit squirrelier, and battling will probably lessen up at that time. However, I could be wrong, and I do expect to see a strategic kind of masterclass play out for some, I would imagine. This is going to be a really good opportunity to, I think, run an undercut out there if you get into the right situation, and honestly, I think the overcut could work too. It just depends on where you're at in track and what your pace is with the cars around.
Still waiting for some of the first times to populate, as Herger does not want to be the lead car, interesting enough, to have to run a full lap at speed. We'll see where the benchmark is set by the 662. 2:08.169 to start things off for the session, but we're expecting that to obviously change here as these top competitors continue to burn in more times. Now keep in mind, with how things are looking in regards to the championship conversation we touched upon with the points earlier, Chamberlain's going to be an interesting one with the domination station so far, but if you haven't noticed, amongst the drivers that are showing not out in from the garage area here, there is a big name that may or may not be missing here. A certain Ferrari, in fact. That would be Christopher Larson. That is not a part of those on-track, Mike.
Wow, you're absolutely right. Yes, indeed. Christopher Larson missing this one out is massive. We talked about this earlier. This is really the only difference in the points right now, is the fact that there is not a finish for Christopher Larson in race 2 at Monza, and then also for Max Massenave, who also had, I think, a DNF in race 1, or a DNS, excuse me, for Silverstone. He did not start that race. So Xavier Chamberlain being the only one that's shown up, I think, to every single race in the top points, barring Dussarmo. Dussarmo's been here for every single one as well, but that's really the difference maker, and showing up and putting in the numbers, that's what gets you the points. So Larson here, this is, well, absolutely going to put him out of second position, but as we get down here to the final few races, it could get very close when it comes to that trophy.
It could very well get to a near automatic lock for the championship in terms of point standings, but Max Mason may be one of the disruptors in that. He's top of the board to start things off, or he resets for the tires. Steve Ward, a little bit of a different look here tonight for him, going with a little bit more on the purple and bluish side for his paint scheme. Can't tell if that's part of the design or if the template didn't fit the race car. It's a different look.
Yeah, But honestly, I'm a fan. I like the different color schemes especially. I love to see the bright cars and also just people putting their heart into their cars. That's what you absolutely love to see. It does kind of look like a missing texture, though, at certain parts of that car, but I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure that that is as intended. And the McLaren here does pull over Steve Ward. He's going to be pulling back into the pit lane. His previous lap there at 2:09. Not going to be good enough for this grid currently. At 2:07.5 is what's topping the time charts with Max Massenave. Pierre just behind at 4/10 down the ladder, really. And behind that, well, not that close times, all things considered. We've seen much tighter times throughout the previous races here, Justin.
So this is one of the newcomers, by the way. He has the Frenchman tag when it comes to Sim Grid, based out of France. Also has the Montreal on the spoiler. 0 for 10 will be making the debut, racing with the Montreal Racing Team, a part of their series. Just recently finished off in the top 10 over at Spa. So has been amongst those that have run a fair few of league races with those out of Montreal. Looking to make his debut here tonight for this season's campaign.
Love to see them out on the track in the Lexus. A little bit twitchy in the penultimate corner on the exit. That's going to cost a few tenths, though. To the line here, let's see what we're going to be managing. It looks like a good sector 1 and 2. Let's see how the third one rolls. That's a 2:07.9, a very competitive time. Nearly 300 thousandths quicker than Pierre Laporte.
Yeah, that Lexus seems very fast. It may become one of the disruptors here when it comes to the ebb and flow with the championship frontrunners. You also have Eva Lazo Silva amongst those making one of their first starts of the season. I believe they appeared earlier on the campaign. Alex Bacon is amongst the drivers in the field tonight. We haven't seen too much in Jared Bergen, Redacted Grip, amongst those who has missed some races. So Marin Charon amongst those in the field. So a big spread of newcomers and or first, second, or third starts of the season of those who aren't in range to potentially win a t-shirt in terms of attendance. But are looking to have some fun here tonight. Still 11 minutes to go in the session, though. Well, Rousseau amongst those having to find a way to get up the board. 2:10.7 is a long way off for the pull time.
Yeah, certainly a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. And even the same here for Benoit Rousseau, who we expect to be in those very competitive times. I think this is just COTA claiming really time out of people. At the end of the day, this is a long track, a very long track, 3.4 miles, 5.5 kilometers, 20 corners again, and that is a lot of opportunities to lose out. And with that, of course, we see that the timing tower being very, very separated as we go down the order here. And as we were speaking, let's see what Benoit Rousseau can manage. The Sector 2 was a little bit weak, and I think Sector 1 might have even been invalid, so that's going to be another re-rack 'em and re-stack 'em for Benoit Rousseau, struggling with track limits. I think that's a very common theme, and we're going to see that throughout the entirety of tonight.
Especially as you can see, managing the tire temperature is going to be something to watch for also for the course of the run. Rousseau sliding the tires, didn't get the grip down this time. Lose a little bit more time. Just the setup, maybe a bit more on the tricky side, to say the very least for him, with how much he's slipping and sliding here. 24, make it 25. Have now set times, by the way, over the course of this qualifying session. And obviously, over the course of this type of a race, we may see a bit of shuffling when it comes to some of the battles. Look at those that are in their respective potential battle packs. 14th through 20th, going to be pretty close because that's all within about maybe less than a tenth of a second here, Mike. At least in the very early going with 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go in queue.
And that's the beauty that I love when it comes to Simu Nation. Pretty much every single broadcast that we've had watching these drivers has developed this pack-style racing. We have these sort of, I don't want to call it mid-pack, lower pack, but at the end of the day, it's just packs forming throughout the entirety of this race. And what that does when we get into the actual action, it allows for some amazing battling, and it constantly delivers. And with that, allowing pretty much any skill level to join this championship as well. So if you're looking to get involved here, again, sign up, head down to the description, get involved here at Simu Nation. It's 2 races left, and it's going to be a great time. Anywhere you fall on this grid, you're going to have some action.
One of the other Canadians in the field, this is Orangeron, trying to build up speed in the Iron Dames paint scheme. right now in amongst the top 12 up on the board in this qualifying session so far. And right now, is another one of those likely to run the Lamborghini here this evening. One of the first major races when it comes to any series recorded on SimGrid, but has appeared in some other Canadian championships. Right now, just trying to plug and play around this circuit. How do you feel about the Lamborghini here tonight?
That is a great question. We're going to have to find out. That's one of the cars we don't have too many of currently, though, with Pierre Laporte. He is wringing the neck of that bull, running at 2:07.9, so it's certainly possible for a very high lap time. But as Sharon here gets into it, I'd imagine with that big old V10 behind, the 5.2-liter Audi-made V10, delivering quite a boatload of horsepower. It's going to tenderize those tires quite quickly, but, you know, I keep talking about the fact that the tire wear is going to be extreme. But what this sort of allows to do when we come into the race itself, and I know this is going to sound almost counterproductive to what I've been saying, there's a potential for a no tire change in these stops. I think you can run a set of tires all the way to the end. Now, you're going to be extremely slow towards the end of these races. However, I think cars that are better on the tire wear will be able to put up a fight due to the fact that, well, you just lose the opportunity to battle so quickly here.
Especially with what we've already seen just on the racetrack. So the massive gaps that a few of the competitors have built up for themselves. It's not necessarily a choo-choo train type of a day, even with some of the long straightaways, it seems, for today. But right now, as the 11 zips on through and dives down to pit road for service, under 7 minutes to go, Chevrolet still at the top of the board in qualifying. The points leader with a near 2/10 advantage. The LaFontaine right now trying to make their way back up to the top 10 here. Has a little bit of slipstream maybe off the Ford, but not too much, as the Ferrari, the highest of that car manufacturer here today, looking to build up speed here. Also, by the way, we might have to keep an eye on if we see Larson indeed record times here, because his name doesn't have the garage marker next to him. Zach Wolf is also the same way. Steve Ward just went P3, though, in one of his best qualifying performances of the season.
Very nice lap time, knocking Cyril Fortin down to 4th position. And again, that manufacturer diversity. We talked about who is going to be the strongest manufacturer. Well, you can throw a blanket over the top 5 right now, and they're all very, very different. So seeing that is extremely good to see. The balance of performance throughout the entirety here of LMU is looking great at this point in time. And we want to see that continue. You know, and cars like the McLaren, cars like the Ferrari as well, have very, very smooth power delivery, as well as very, very good rear ends. And that's going to help them when it comes to race management. So while we might not see them be the fastest over one lap, that's why, for example, we see the Lamborghini of Laporte up in the front, a car that chews through tires due to the fact that it has such an aggressive front end. However, car that's going to be a little bit more balanced in the race pace is going to be better long term. So is it necessarily representative of someone's time in qualifying here that they're going to be doing this throughout the entirety of the race? No, I'd keep in mind the fact that they are going to slow down, and so it's going to be very interesting to see.
Do you like this approach? Is the big thing out of that main thought process. Larson top 10 to start. Remember, originally the thought was might not be here because he wasn't amongst those on the board at all. And now he's going to have to make up for lost ground quickly. Needs to gain up at least 2 seconds to get up towards the pole time, just about, because the Porsche Chevrolet has jumped up into the 2:06.8 up at the top of the board. No one else is within your 6 or 7 tenths of a second at the top of the board.
That is absolutely unreasonable from Xavier Chamberlain. My goodness, that is extremely fast. And to be fair, I don't think anyone's going to be able to catch that. Pierre Laporte sets an absolute barnstormer of a lap, and it's not even close to good enough. Nearly a second slower, 8 or 7 tenths off with a 2:07.5. A great time. Pierre Laporte doing very well. I thought he almost lost the car there in the first corner. You think it was just him pulling over to the side. But Max Massenave here in the Aston Martin has a lot to do as well. I will say for Christopher Larson, though, even being in the top 10 should be manageable. You're in the danger positions when it comes to the start of the race, but if you can manage and keep your nose out of trouble throughout the first few corners, I think he'll be setting himself up quite well throughout the entirety of the race as it goes on. This is a very easy to overtake track. I say that with some hesitation. If you're much quicker than the cars in front of you, which, not to discount JP Rivel or Jonathan Desormeaux, which, to be fair, Rivel, we don't really know their pace as they're newer to the season, but Christopher Larson is more than likely going to be quicker, and on cue, there he goes, he is quicker.
Yep, there he goes, up to the 6th spot at least, but still a full second plus off the race leader. And here's the thing that we haven't touched upon is positioning on where you're going to be on the grid also may be a talking point, because the inside line's going to provide for a lot of dive bombing opportunities up at a turn 1 here. Outside, you're up for grabs for drivers trying to lunge it in.
Shades of Carlos Sainz here from a couple of years past. No, absolutely. You got to be careful. The thing about the GT3s, or the LMGT3s in particular, is they can take a little bit of a battering. You can go elbows out into T1 and be okay. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but here at COTA, it's a pinch point. It's a very tight corner, pretty much over 90 degrees backwards. You're going to see some contact, and we're here for that.
Yeah, especially with what we're seeing break down here. Desormeaux up inside the top 10. He is the second highest out of the Porsches, by the way, here with 2 minutes to go. And right now, we've seen some of his teammates have a bit of a challenge here so far. We'll say, when it comes to parts of this racetrack, some of these suspensions really having to bounce around here with the intensity of the curves, you can argue here. Elevation change pretty high, yeah, but also it's going to be important to make sure that balance in terms of making sure you don't bottom out going to be coming into play.
Yeah, 100%. And the Porsche here of Xavier Chamberlain clearly is quite planted and doing an incredible job of it. If he can continue this pace, or even half of that pace, moving into the actual race, I don't know if he's going to be catchable in this one. I'd call him the favorite early on. Going to definitely call a commentator's curse for that if we do have some foreshadowing, but either way, I think Xavier Chamberlain in the Porsche is going to be the favorite. The Porsche here probably is the best car on the grid. If I had to make a guess, it's just the most balanced overall, and on top of it, the least tire wear when it comes to anything. It's very, very balanced. So I would expect to see Chamberlain here in the race probably just go for a straight-up drive to the end, make his pit stop, not take any tires, and not look back. Now, I can say that right now. Again, you can cut to me 20 minutes from now, or I guess 45 minutes from now, and I could be eating my words with Massenave on a completely different strategy. Xavier Chamberlain punted down the order, and who knows what could happen.
Nerve ready to try and zip his way even further. 2:07.1 last time by. That was his personal best in the session. The 10 also jumped up into the 3s in the 2:07 bracket. Right now the 1:06 for U8R, looking to fly up and ahead and try and continue what's been a good start for their respective team here today. And it looks like it's a pull to the side. Not much higher up for them. Here, Etienne Laporte now moves his way and stays his way inside the top 5. Pierre Etienne Laporte will be amongst your top 5 competitors as the horn sounds. Qualifying coming to a close. Clock is at zeros, and just about everybody has already done their laps.
Pierre has one last opportunity to make this work here, and just a little bit of track left. Well, he's got quite a bit of track left. He's just coming out of the S's right now. Can he manage it? I think we also have Desormeaux, who's somebody to keep an eye on for sure. Dan Poulin, a little out of position, down in P14. I think he can manage to find a good 4 positions and finish up in 10th. Other drivers, well, I think everybody else is pretty much done. Zach Wolf into the pit lane, it looks like, on this lap with a 2:11, will not be improving. Ooh, that is a close call, and I think that might have been track limits for Pierre Laporte. We'll see if he does come in on this lap or if that was, but it certainly was getting a little bit close down the back straight, as he is going to be finding himself. While we have this here down to the end here of qualifying, now's a great time to say thank you to everybody in chat. A big warm welcome to everyone joining us on the YouTube side of things, on the Simu Nation YouTube channel. If you guys are enjoying, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. And also, let us know who we're supporting. We got Pierre love. We got some MRT love. And, well, we got a lot. We usually have a lot of MRT love, so love to see that. And also some drivers setting their PBs as well. So big warm welcome to everybody joining us in the chat and the VOD watchers afterwards. We thank you, each and every one of you.
Yeah. It'll be a fun time here on V-Speed as let's find out if the 662 PO's on in, or this is the end of the session here. Just want to see to make sure the run will say pit lane. That means your queue coming up for results, as that will be nearly into the pit wall. Xavier Chamberlain starts on the pole as a result with a gap of near 3/10 over Max Mason for 10 on debut in the top 3. Laporte and Ward in the top 5. Any surprises here, Mike?
No, I would say not in terms of anything in terms of position. I guess the only real surprise that we see is pretty much P10. Jonathan Desormeaux. I expected a little bit more out of him. Chris Larson up into 6th position. I think he can manage from there. Steve Ward in 5th. He'll be a hard time to pass, though. We see the rest of the order as well, though, down. Sal Morin in 11th. Felipe Massanev in 12th. Stefan Delafontaine out of position in 13th. Dan Poulin in 14th. He can find a few positions, and so on down the order. It's a jam-packed grid here tonight, and let's get into it.
Let's take a look at your starting grid here on V-Speed as these drivers roll their way quickly onto the starting grid. Xavier Chamberlain will start on the pole today. Max Masoner will be amongst your front row competitors here from COTA. See those drivers line up in just the next moment or so as we get set to go for your starting grid this evening. Keep in mind, short pace lap, Mike. They'll be starting the arena section. So we now get the chance to look at those cars and how they'll set up here. Your front row, once again, involving 2 teammates. For 10, we'll start in 3rd today with Laporte down in the 4th spot. Turn the page to row 3. That's where Steve Ward and Christopher Larson starts down in 6th. 7th will go the way of Patrick Herger. Then Olivier Legrand will start in the 8th position. Then rounding your top 10, JP Ribble and Jonathan Desormeaux will be in the top 10.
Salmore and Sharon coming into 11th with Felipe Massanev down in 12th. Stefan Delafontaine coming home in 13th for the triple 3. A surprising result with Dan Poulin in 14th. Carl Maurer in 15th behind, with Alex Bacon coming home in 16th position, with Jared Bergen Redacted Grim in P17. David Pittman coming home in 18th, and 19th belonging to Cedric Courtier, alongside in 20th, rounding out your top 20, Marc-Andre Hamel.
Turn the page into the 20th. That's where Benoit Rousseau will be. Andre Moreau in the Ford will start in 22nd. 23rd goes to Zach Wolf, also a late entry in terms of qualifying speed of the Iron Lynx machine. Then Silva alongside. Then JF Nollet will start in 25th. P.E. Longue way down the order in 26th. John Benecki will start in 27th. Angel Saw was the last driver to set a time. The rest of the drivers are in session, like Frank Gore-Tex, along with a few others, but those cars did not set times and stayed fully in the garage area for practicing qualifying. Your final keys to victory, Mike, as the field makes its way up through the out of the arena section.
Keep your tires clean.
Simple as that, Mike.
Simple as that.
Well, we're about to find out if it's a simple night when it comes to Simu Nation racing here with the LMGT3 Masters powered by NOX Gaming, or we end up having a complex night. We're happy to have you with us here on V-Speed for tonight's coverage here from Circuit of the Americas, here in a place where things can get weird. It's Austin, Texas. Pace car already dropping its way down the field, coming up towards the start zone. A lengthy start zone for that start line. Cars on the gas. Green is out. We're underway from COTA. Already ready. Larson losing some ground off the start. Elected to dive to the inside instead to try and take the preferred groove, and he nearly turns someone for it. Side by side still for 6th or 7th position as they make their way down the hillside. Larson losing a lot of ground already, while some of the others, like Ward, under attack. Larson stays side by side for the S's, has to give up some spots, and it causes a spin. It's Ribble going around.
Frustrating start as we drop down the order for Revel. He's going to be involved in that contact early. Larson getting a very aggressive start as he went through. Managed to dive to the inside and hold his ground to Patrick Herger, giving him the elbows. Was not taking no for an answer. We see battling back in the background. This is Zach Wolf as he has managed 21st position. What has happened to him as he has fell down? No, he's gained 2 positions as well. So Zach managing for a little bit here, but it is chaos here. Side by side in the background, 2 BMWs trying to go for every inch of this track and onto the back straight now. Good opportunities for some slipstreams and good opportunities for some dive bombs.
Pedro Saw has already picked up the drive-through penalty off the rip. So our first penalty already coming through as a result of some of the troubles off the rip. A lot of people going down that back straightaway, looking for some lunges. Silva, hugging the inside, will protect this time as they make their way off through 12 up towards 13. But everybody else, real quickly at the very least, trying to get themselves single filed out. Larson is not one of them. Gets 7th back, at least gets a revenge on Herger, but now has to dig to catch up to the next car that's already pulled up by 9/10 of a second.
Yeah, long ways to go for though in this race. Larson just needs to manage his tires right now and not overly push. Now Oliver Legrand is going to be thinking the exact same thing. He's gained 2 positions himself. Currently, the real gainers, we have 5 positions up for Cedric Courtier. We also have 6 positions for Jared Berg and Redactogrim, so taking advantage of a very chaotic start, but everybody really keeping their nose clean, obviously, other than the JP Rivel incident, which hopefully he can manage to gain some ground. He's down 17 positions right now, but this is the time to settle in. We do not need to see Herger and Larson battling. If you are a Larson fan, do hope that they work together. Now that's a bit of fruitful effort. Obviously telling racing drivers to go easy on each other is nigh impossible, but this is what they need. Work together, catch that pack up, close that gap that you were talking about, and plug it as we go.
Cumberland not running away per se from his fellow teammates in different cars at least. Max Masonov keeping the pressure high for 10 of the MRT machine. Also marching his way around the track. That Lexus doing a really solid job maintaining the pole at the top 3 and making what would normally be a 1 or 2 car breakaway into a lot more pressure here. MRT machine has a fair amount of partnerships it's built up when it comes to the team sponsorship side. Right now, that 99 looking to figure out a way to close up. Down the straightaways, though, you can see Masonov is actually a little bit quicker than the Lexus. The Lexus losing a few hundredths down the whole backstretch.
Yeah, the Lexus not looking particularly quick in the straight line. Now that could be due to setup, obviously. It could be due to the car as well. I predict it's a little bit of setup. The Lexus typically having quite a bit of grunt, all things considered, and that slipstream really going to be playing a role as well. Let's see, though, as we unleash the right foot and try to go down here. We're in the horseshoe, excuse me. And we'll go for it on the start-finish straight. So Cyril Fortin more than likely is just going to settle in right now. Massenev, again, you don't want to be battling. Don't get reeled into Pierre Laporte. You've already pulled that 1.3 second gap, and Laporte is going to be looking in his rearview mirror onto Ward right now.
Yeah, look at this for Carl Maurer. Right now, 18th, as fast as laps go in the 284s. We're talking near 2 seconds slower than qualifying, by the way. Try and preserve the temp, but also based on the difference in the race setup. Maurer, decent runs throughout his campaign whenever we've seen him on the racetrack. But so far, 17th the point standings, has been a top 15 car most of the way. This is one of his lowest starts. First race of the season was 23rd. For the most part, has been around 12th, 13th, 14th outside of that.
Yeah, they're doing a good job here so far. Just needs to keep on keeping on for the time being. Cedric Courtier Also, doing a very solid throughout it. 220s, though, looking to find a little bit more lap time than that as we continue. Right now, the thorn in the side is everywhere when we look for COTA, trying to find an opportunity, and also looking at that rear view mirror as Dylan 10 is all over him currently. The 333 is looking quite hungry, and to be honest, this is kind of the Ford's fault right now, as Jared Brigham, Redactogrim, we said, gained a few positions, but he is the head of this snake.
Yeah, that's one of the Rockefeller Racing machines, and we've seen Rockefeller Racing pop up as well in iRacing for reference, and usually those drivers, when it comes to the Rockefeller with the A in it, like to battle it out. Right now, the BMW Couturier holds himself on the defense of the inside. DeFontaine, by the way, in terms of his speed in the Ferrari, has been 3 times a top 10 car in 2025-26, but right now needs to figure a way to get back on the rhythm. You see he's lost ground the first couple sectors already in the midst of his train.
And this is a difficult recovery. You're in a very awkward position and almost, waiting for the pit stop or waiting for a mistake. Redactogrim makes that mistake right now, and the BMW of Longueuil sails off the circuit into the kitty litter and has sunk, as it seems. He has gone into the crowd. My goodness. I don't know what to make of that one.
Either towed or the car somehow evaporated into thin air. I don't know how else to really say, but outside of that, that adds on to what was a difficult challenge for him to hold on to top 20 points. Zach Wolf, good start for him. Here comes Bacon looking to sizzle some moves. Has Dan Poulin not giving him space though.
And he's going to be working that inside line as much as he can, trying to force your opponent out wide. Not going to work on this occasion, unfortunately. But Dan Poulin, you got to wake up pretty early in the morning to pull one over the eyes like that. Stefan de La Fontaine also, by the way, still battling up ahead with Courtier, so this could come back into that 4-way fight once again, and even still with Karl Maurer seemingly gaining in the background with Benoit Rousseau on the tail. It's going to be a McLaren train as we get going here, but oh my goodness, what is happening up ahead? It looks like that Ford Mustang may be causing more chaos. No, the Ford is absolutely nowhere to be found right now. It's all BMW all over the track.
All over the place on some of these sends. De La Fontaine going back and forth for the crossover. And looks like they'll cover things off. Dan Poulin immediately open up the door for that power back. By the way, there is Longueuil falling down the pylon, so indeed is now off circuit. So ignore him plummeting down from up for the race lead for a moment because of the tow. Longueuil, once your first DNF, Silva has also had to come down pit road. Door-to-door contact. De La Fontaine getting a hit to the shoulder. The BMW to the outside, getting a little bit chippy to the bumper.
All over him like a rash. He's rubbing a hole in that back carbon fiber bit. Is he going to make contact on this occasion? No, he has to run wide, in fact. It looks like there was a little bit of overslowing, unfortunately, from the Porsche up ahead, but Dan Poulin's going to use that slow in, fast out mentality to pull a little bit of a gap, gain some breathing room over De La Fontaine. But at what point do you just let him go? He's clearly going to be quicker, and you have to pick your battles and choose them. Work together, potentially, with De La Fontaine, and keep the likes of Bacon and Courtier behind. Let these guys battle it out and throw each other to the wolves and run away smiling into the Texas sunset. Now, that's the plan, but we all know that no plan survives first contact, especially with the enemy. And with Cedric Courtier all over this BMW, all over the defense, as that's going to be Courtier defending over Karl Maurer. My apologies. Maurer makes that one look easy.
Gonna get himself up to 15th with that move. Continue the progression up at the very front of this pack. Almost 15 minutes through, almost 10 minutes to be precise. Checking in on in second. Right now, Pretend still keeping himself within arm's distance. Rotofast.com sponsor machine. Still not able to find a fast way around. This time got a good corner exit initially for the back straightaway. Keep in mind, Chevrolet doing what you expect from the championship leader. Growing this gap by about a tenth or so per lap right now, up by almost 1.7 seconds before the straightaway. That Porsche has been mightily consistent. By the way, I believe Laporte was amongst those going way wide back there in terms of his angles as a couple drivers try and make sure they don't go too far on the brakes like in a battle like this again.
Sorry to kind of change the subject here, but what has happened to Longuet? P. Longuet has dropped out of the server and is absolutely gone. He was running up in very solid position there, but now has fell down, it seems, unfortunately. Hopefully everything gets recovered for him. I was just trying to see if I could find a replay of that incident, but I'm not finding anything, unfortunately. Looks like it might have been a disconnect. So hopefully we can get the update back, get them back in the server. It's very unfortunate for them. But back to the battle at hand. Karl Maurer, Courtier, and Benoit Rousseau. At what point, again, do you let these drivers by? At what point do you fight? This is a very difficult question to ask, and we have so much left in this stint, especially if you're a McLaren. This is a very difficult strategy call. I feel like if you are in the McLarens, if you're in the Fords, some of the more aggressive cars that are going to eat the tires a bit, but not quite overly aggressive like your Lamborghinis, more of the mid-ranged tire chewers, as we'll put it, you can often go for two-tire strategy and potentially make it work. Just change the front tires and go for something a little bit looser. But I suspect for these McLarens, they're going to go for all fours, which is going to make a little bit more of an awkward time. The BMW, again, potentially doesn't need to take tires. I think Courtier can get away with it. It's just a matter of, can you keep it on the track for the rest of the session?
By the way, give huge credit to what we're seeing again with Ward. His best run was over in the second race this season. Feels like a long time ago in terms of the campaign, but that was all the way down when we were over in France, specifically no Monza, I should say. Since then, a little bit up and down when it comes to Ward. 18th place at DNS, which is a do not start, and a 7th place run. Today, back on the pace we've seen early on in the campaign, and is really pressurizing some of the championship favorites here.
I wonder if Pierre's already struggling with tires. I highly doubt it. I don't think the Lamborghini is going to chew them up in that much time, 15 minutes, but let's see. As we go, though, side by side for for Maurer and Rousseau. This is going to allow a good opportunity as well for Rival in the background in that Lexus as he fell down the order earlier. We know he has the pace, so we're just going to be trying to find a gap to make his way through. In fact, there it is right there. The 117 makes a lunge, and immediately we see Rival trying to get to the inside of Rousseau. Rousseau, thankfully, not having any of it, but this is where that over-aggression can really not pay off. Courtier finding a little bit too much aggression in the gravel. Now we have a four-way battle for P16 or P15 at this rate. Goodness me. Looks like as well that BMW, after getting some gravel on the tires, is all over the place, struggling for grip.
Yeah, remember, the 202 for his circumstance already has a spin on those tires. How's that going to hurt them? Is there a chance he has gotten them back to a decent spot here with the Lexus?
I suspect they're in a decent spot, but I certainly would not be too thrilled with them at the end of this. I would imagine that the Lexus is going to be coming in for a set of tires. The spin, though, it was in the S's, which is the worst spot to do it, the highest speed spot to spin. It wasn't the worst. He came to a stop pretty quickly, but he certainly has gotten those tires back down to temp at this point. It's a matter of, did they flat spot? How well did he hold his brakes? And if he did hold them quite well, that might be an issue. But seemingly, looking at his lap time, quite good so far. So for the previous lap, the Lexus, let's see, managing somewhere around, as I'm checking, the 210s. So he's much quicker than the drivers around him.
Yep, and right now, Maurer still finding it out, but keep in mind, you also run also in this choo-choo train technically. Larson, bit of surprising run, I have to say, for the Ferrari, because it's similar to that of maybe in terms of if you look at the overall results to what we've seen maybe in round 7 or round 4, should say. But today hasn't seemed like Larson's been exactly in the ballpark per se.
Well, you say that, and he's only 2 seconds off of a podium currently. I mean, our top well, I mean, not barring Xavier Chamberlain and Massanev, but third all the way down to 7th are nose to tail currently, so I wouldn't count him out just yet.
There is a huge thing, though. There is no room for error if he even wants 2nd in the standings, let alone to keep up with the race leader for the point standings. Max Mason, with this advantage over him, would absolutely steal the spot away. That's with him missing a race, by the way.
Yeah, great point. No, 100%. I missed that one myself. Christopher Larson is he needs to gain the ground. He needs to be finishing within 2 positions of Massanev. Plus or minus, it doesn't matter, but he just has to be within that competitive number. We still have 2 races left, and being a couple points off isn't necessarily the end of the world. We already said earlier, there are so many points per race on the line, 85 for first. So there's a lot of opportunities still to make them up. A lot of opportunities here for Ravel as well to make up some positions as he finds the inside of the 117 of Karl Mauer, and that looked like taking candy from a baby. JP up into 16th.
Still trying to keep the recovery drive going. Like the shade of purple, by the way, in the car. It's almost a, I don't know, onyx feel. I think it's supposed to be the space sky. Does space have sky? You get what I mean, it's space. Oh, and he's got hit! Mauer just got hit from behind, and it looks like it's from one of the other McLarens. Might have been Russo.
Got sent into the stratosphere. We're going to be pulling up a replay momentarily of that.
Yeah, it might have been him. If not, it was Morrow. It looked to be just going to the S's and then bonked from behind. Larson still coiled up in his respective pack there. Past the 15-minute mark here in this race. We're happy with this here on VSV for tonight's coverage of Simu Nation. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying this coverage here tonight. So far, it's been a dicey one in the mid to back pack, a dominating one at the front of it. Larson still looking to try and find any way he can to build something up for 6th. Will take the chance to the inside of the Porsche, bunks him. Larson takes away 6th as he keeps it straight on the straightaway.
Well, but the momentum, though, might be in the favor of the Porsche as we head our way back up the hill. The Ferrari is quick. Is the Porsche quicker? I think we all know the answer to that. The answer is no on this occasion. Let's see, though. A late dive potentially could be on the cards. Legrand, though, he's going to keep his cards close to his chest, wait for the opportunity, feel the opponent out, and says, all right, Larson, you got me on this one. We just got to work together now. Catch that gap back up to Steve Ward, because it is an absolute mile away at this point.
Yeah, that distance just rapidly going up here at this point, and curious again how things have really sparked up with some of this contact. Herger still not really going too many places here, Mike, but as these cars zip their way on through, you have to remember, the longer we run, the harder the recoveries are going to be for some of these drivers.
Yeah, certainly, and this track is very unforgiving. We see those spins, they add up quick. One little spin, your tires can be absolutely burning, and they are very difficult to come back down. You have to be cautious, you have to be careful, and we have seen some drivers throwing that to the wind occasionally. And this is a long race. We see side-by-side, though, back again here in the live feed. Justin, take it away.
Yes, indeed. And you see that LaFontaine losing a spot with Poulin yet again in the back and forth. By the way, moments ago, Jared Bergen Redactor Grip also had an out-of-control moment. One of 2 different drivers that have had issues pop up across the circuit as of late. He's had a few different out-of-control tags over the past 5 minutes alone. That's why his Ford has plummeted down in 25th. That was a stage left, by the way, for the 11 car. Morin Giron really going wide outside the colors of the racing surface. That cost him a couple spots and put him behind some of these drivers. Now it's 11th for Poulin on back.
Long ways to go still, though. 55 minutes, and we expect, I would imagine, the pit stops to fall around laps 25, laps 27, somewhere in that range. And we're not even close to that. We still have nearly 15 laps to go before we get there. So these drivers that are struggling now, it's going to be a struggle bus for a while. But if you are in the situation like Patrick Herger, or if you're another driver that's sort of just trying to claw their way back, Oliver Legrand here as they switch positions back and forth, left and right here. Porsche v McLaren through the S's. This is not the best overtaking opportunity, but as you get to the bottom of the hill, it opens up. Legrand, where do you make your move? That's the question.
That's the huge question, I think, for a lot of these drivers. Keep in mind, this is tough to see, top 8, they started where they're currently running. No major shuffles amongst your top 8 today. If you want big movers, you have to go to Nolette, you have to go back to Wolf, you have to go back to Morrow, amongst those 6, 5, and 5 respectively. Really, for the most part, if you qualified well, you're running well. Alex Bacon, by the way, just had issues. Same for Rivel having issues. 2 different drivers having problems all of a sudden. Rivel nearly spun it, and Bacon's lost part of his spoiler.
Goodness me. We'll find a replay of that here at some point. I have found the replay of Karl Maurer being sent off the track. We can get that here at some point. But definitely the damage is starting to be piled on here at this stage of the race as we get into this here. A wingless McLaren on your screen currently. That is certainly not quite showroom ready, Justin.
Yeah, that is kind of the oopsies, I forgot to install a part type of a situation. And right now, that's causing a bit of an issue for that De La Fontaine. Right now, still trying to work his way through, but Mike, as they zip their way through at this point. Talking about, by the way, the earlier spin you were talking with Maurer, he's 18th, by the way. Right now, Rivel, he is really struggling in the braking. He nearly missed the corner.
He's struggling, but he's got pace. This is a driver that I like to say has heart. They drive with their heart on their sleeve at all times, and you can tell. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Ravel here going for a move that maybe isn't on all the time. You need a compliant BMW to your outside if you want to make it work, and thankfully, no dramas unfold, at least just yet. This is really opening an opportunity, though, for the Rockefeller Racing Ford in the background. I think that's who that is. It looks like it. Of Andre Moreau. Side by side again, the Lexus just has their nose alongside as we get down to the first corner, though. This should be a good opportunity for Ravel, but the BMW has good brakes. Are they good enough? Ravel sends themselves almost off the circuit, manages to claim the inside line for the beginning of the S's, so continuing the forward pressure. Can we keep it going? Yes, we can. JP Ravel finally has gone up into 14th.
Still down in terms of starting spots, but he's quickly getting to a spot where by the end of the race should be back where he started, if not near in that position. Bacon has found his way to pit road, by the way, for the damage situation. So Bacon is at the very least fixing that spoiler and trying to get another one installed on the car. Silva, who's the other driver that's gone down pit road, is still 84 seconds back of him. All this as well in the midst of this wildness. Poulin's lost 18 seconds to the top 10. The outside the top 10 race has stayed relatively active with some of the attrition. The De La Fontaine again having to adjust his braking line.
Working very hard at this point. You can see this might be where he's starting to smell that blood in the water. He's been following Dan Poulin now for a few laps and seeing where he's weak, seeing where he's strong. That's what you have to do. Oh, goodness. And, well, I guess his rear bumper is now quite weak, at least structurally speaking, because a Ferrari just punted it in the back. Now we got a three-way fight. Welcome to the party, Sal Morin-Sharon, as he's joined the conversation. A bull versus a horse versus a horse, I guess, with the Porsche.
Yep, and right now those challenges really sparking up here when it comes to different manufacturers. A little bit of a slide for Sharon at this point. But right now, Prancing Horse, De La Fontaine, really losing ground at this point for that spot. By the way, damage complete for the repairers. Bacon will hold on to 25th, but will be at least a lap plus down to the rest of the race leaders as a result of that wing situation for their sake on the track.
I also see Steve Ward here getting very excited as he's getting alongside Christopher Larson. Larson got this position a little bit earlier, but the missing texture McLaren, as we're going to call it, it's still beautiful, it's not missing textures, but I love it, on the back now of Christopher Larson. Let us know, chat. I know I've seen some Steve Ward love in the chat as well. Lots of MRT love, certainly. Carl also getting some cheers. Let us know who you want to see. Is it Steve Ward? Is it Larson? Currently, it's side by side down into the braking zone, and Steve Ward is going to be the one to claim it. Is it a little bit bridge too far? Goes off the track, comes back, and almost forces Larson straight off the circuit. Again, nearly taking the apex by name, clattering his opponent out wide. I think the stewards might be taking a look at that. I mean, hey, rubbing is racing at the end of the day.
I mean, especially when you want to defend a spot, I guess, but usually on the road courses, if you have the elbows out like that, you don't make friends.
Friends are not needed in this moment. Well, I might say that. They actually kind of would be. You certainly don't want to make enemies. And when your enemy, oh goodness, is Christopher Larson, he's steaming down the inside like a freight train, and he rips the position back without thinking twice. No contact necessary for him. He says, this is how you make a move, Steve Ward. Get out of my way.
Nicely done. Up through turn 20. Ward one last hope. No. And Herger, by the way, looking to try and move up and do the same thing here potentially. So far, Patrick Herger, very quiet for his run since originally yielding a spot to Larson off the opening lap. Here's McLaren looking to dig pretty quickly. Have an opportunity next in this line. By the way, as we move our way through and looking in terms of some of the time deltas, so far we've actually seen a pretty decent amount of fall off. If you think of the tires, by the way, Mike, the times compared to the personal bests have dropped off more than a second. About 1.2 seconds is the average for everybody in the field.
Yeah, and that does not surprise me. The reason, by the way, you're seeing some drivers drop off more than others is because some drivers are just pushing harder than others. The reason being is they know when they come into the pit stop, they're taking tires. Some of these drivers, they are in saving mode, especially if you're driving a Porsche, especially if you're driving a Ferrari. You want to be on your best behavior. Keep your tires cool, keep them clean. As I said earlier, if you have clean tires, you slide less, and that means you get less heat in your tires. That is a winning strategy if you are going for that single stop and going for no tires. Drivers like the McLaren that we see on screen of Karl Mauer, not too worried about the degradation at this stage. They know at some point they're going to come in, take those boots off, and get a fresh set of potentially 4 if they're driving this hard.
Absolutely. By the way, you may notice some drivers falling up and down the pylon. Dave Pittman and Marc-Andre Hamel both once recent sliders in terms of having issues on the track. Millett has also got himself some issues that have popped up for him. He is currently amongst those who has retired as the DNF as of a few minutes ago per live timing. But Mauer still parking it right now in front of Wolf. One of the better races you could say for Wolf. Pedro Sa just picked up another drive-through.
No surprises here. I expect more by the end of this race. That is track limits getting the best of our drivers, and it happened earlier than expected. We're only 30 minutes into this race right now. So seeing that is a big warning sign. If you are around him on the track, you see that drive-through warning and you say to yourself, okay, let's dial it back a little bit. I'm not battling with anyone necessarily that hard. Well, unless you're one of these drivers on screen. But if you aren't, then just save your tires, save your race, and save the track limits for later. These drivers, they're going to be abusing them as much as they can. Look at the momentum that Karl Mauer has through the outside, managing to carry all of that speed as Moreau was battling up ahead, and he pulls the wool over his eyes handedly. Karl Mauer, a high IQ move.
Looks to zip ahead. Look at Legrand trying to make his way on through this, by the way. He's amongst the drivers that you may have noticed going up and down the pylon. He fell down a little while ago. in terms of his incidents. And now, having to really recover spots, having a hard time doing so with some of these apexes.
Look at who's behind them as well. Zach Wolf, our almost biggest gainer of the day. 5 positions up, though, for Zach Wolf at this stage. Behind John Beneke, up 7 positions. We see a lot of big gainers, and that's mainly just due to consistency. There's Oliver Legrand getting by Andre Moreau. I wonder if that Ford is maybe having a little more degradation than we expect. He tries to come back, though, down the back stretch. Pulls out of that slipstream very, very early. Oliver Legrand surprisingly gives him the inside line, which more than likely is going to be taken full advantage of, and Andre Moreau is going to get by, and that's exactly how it goes down.
That's where we're seeing contact! The 263 into a parking lot. Sends around one of the Fords. Moreau gets sent around with the contact. Right now, that MRT Porsche having a rough time.
Yeah, Oliver Legrand's going to be kicking himself for that one, unfortunately. And, you know, to be honest, oh goodness, be careful here. Andre Moreau is going to be kicking himself as well. Now, I'm not saying that was the fault of Andre Moreau by any stretch of the imagination. I think everybody knows that that was obviously the fault of Maurer. But either way, you left the gap open, and you don't want to leave a gap when it was there. The Porsche saw the, Legrand, I meant to say. Legrand saw the move. He went for the gap, and the gap unfortunately closed. That's racing at the end of the day. Again, Oliver Legrand is responsible for that contact, but I can understand why he went for it. The back and forths, you get that adrenaline pumping, the blood starts flowing, and you just want to make moves. And that was a quick realization of, okay, calm it down.
Especially since you have a pit stop coming up, right? A lot of these drivers going to have to be careful. They don't essentially put themselves into a terrible spot for that. And we already mentioned with the 263, they've kind of done that right before the window. And now, for Maurer at the very least, he's running about his season average in terms of the mean. All this is to say, with 43 minutes to go, been a pretty wild race throughout the mid-pack. It's been difficult to get away from it, though, as a result of where some of these drivers started, and that's why qualifying was so important. The 222 nearly looped it.
Yeah, got to be so careful with that right foot. As the tires get worse, as the fuel load gets lower, again, the car gets lighter, it gets looser, and it gets more difficult to control. Ravel making moves potentially here onto Chiron, the Lamborghini, a little bit slower than expected, but it's mostly this pack that's kind of formed up that we've seen earlier. Dan Poulin being at the head of the snake still, or LaFontaine actually is technically, but I think far enough ahead to not really be under too much pressure. Let's see though, Ravel has been up and down this race. I think it's safe to say more down than up, unfortunately for him. But this is a good opportunity to gain some momentum and gain some confidence back. Find a good overtake, especially into turn 1. If he can make this happen quickly, he can start to gain some more ground, plugging his way through the field.
Especially if with these drivers continue to make mistakes pop up, you have a lot of opportunities that will open up doors with that. Deserneau, by the way, right now looking to carve up for 6. Run to the inside, pops up for a side-by-side, heading up towards 11. Will the dive be on? Yes, it will be. It's Divo time to make the move for the backstretch.
Head first, and 10 out of 10. Beautiful landing and flourish at the end as well. Well, not really, but a solid move. Got it done, and that's what you need to do. Now, coming back into the slipstream is the McLaren of Herger. Got to be careful. The inside line is now claimed, but oh my goodness, that McLaren is rapid. Nearly gets by in the straight line. Great defense, though, from Deserneau. Claims the inside and says, no, absolutely not. You're not coming alongside.
Absolutely. It's his racetrack to fight on, after all. And right now, CJ Deserneau nearly kicking up some sand on his runaway. Up Ford, he's your biggest mover out of those cars in the top 10. Elite Maisonneuve, who's been very quiet, is a +3, along with De La Fontaine in that conversation. Albeit those last 2 cars have a separation, give or take, about 25 seconds. but right now, we know pit stop's going to become a major talking point here. We're just about in the window for drivers to top on off and make sure they're good to go on fuel, because from this point forward, it's going to be about, do you have enough VE when it comes to making your way in and making your way to the checker flag without any issues. Here's the virtual energy. Right now we're still in the 30s for most of the field. A lot more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we got another probably 10 laps or so before we start to see the field piling in. Kind of around that 25, lap 25, lap 27 mark will be where the drivers want to come in. You really want to use that first set of tires the most that you can. And around the undercut phase, I would expect lap 22 as early as lap 20. If you go much earlier than that, the problem is you're not going to have any rubber by the end of the race.
Especially with the way this track really seems to be handling things at the moment. One of the newcomers still following along with the 11 machine right now as they go. Time-wise, looking solid. Had an invalidated lap actually last time by, but it's to the point where Ravel was actually passed by, and it's gotten right about back where he started this race.
Yeah, and for drivers like Ravel, these are who you're going to see going for that one stop. Now, Ravel, probably not in the best position to go for the one stop, all things considered, but I still think that he should go for it. It's just saving time. You can save upwards of 25 seconds to not take tires, and that's going to be used, of course, to gain that track position. We can see it's difficult to overtake as we get more and more worn when it comes to the rubber. The passing gets more difficult. So I expect a lot of drivers to not take tires. Again, especially Xavier Chamberlain. There's no reason. Max Massenet, well, Xavier Chamberlain might just because he can. But some drivers especially, definitely in a position where they won't. This, though, finally, Ravel going to find the position over Dan Poole and can look forward now to De La Fontaine and see how he gets on. The next driver up the road, well, a little bit of a gap at this point.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work. Do you think it's possible? Look at this for the race lead again. It's still close. Cyril's still not giving up for this battle for second, by the way.
I think it's closer than you would expect. A lot of the drivers up front, again, aren't going to take tires, more than likely. But drivers like Patrick Herger and Stephen Ward, they have me scratching my head. The McLaren is kind of that middle ground. Again, that car that you can make it work, but you're really going to be struggling, or you can take tires, and it's understandable. So if they do take tires, that would be roughly around that 25-second mark. And De La Fontaine in the Ferrari, in the arguably second best / best car in terms of tire saving, well, it could be in a position to find a battle later on in this race. Now, that's a tough prospect. The odds of that happening, which, by the way, are lessening the more that De La Fontaine and Ravel battle because, well, De La Fontaine just passed Ravel once again, and so we have a switcheroo once more, and the Lexus has to do that again, and the battling continuing isn't going to help anyone.
It's not going to help anybody in that group. If anything, it's going to cost them more and more time here over the course of this. So it can get a little bit frustrating here. How do you calm those nerves and calm those senses over a battle like this to make sure you don't get a red mist?
I don't know, is the short answer. I've always struggled with that, to be honest. That's where, when it comes to these situations, you know, diamonds are forged under pressure, and a lot of times when you have this much pressure and talking about the tires, this much heat, it will either form you into that diamond or it will crack you into a million pieces and you will falter. Me, personally, I'm the second option, so I'm not one to necessarily give advice to these drivers on what to do and how to keep their cool. My best piece of advice is keep an eye on the road ahead of you, but that's so much easier said than done.
Especially since there's so many factors that can pop up, right? Especially with the potential chaos, but the pit window is open, as we talked about. David Pittman went for an early stop, Mike, by the way. He was one of the drivers towards the back, but kind of shows some of the thoughts here with some of the competitors, like we're going to go in our 10 minutes here. Pittman trying to go for the undercut on the track. So there's that thought process potentially on strategy. No one else seems to like it, and I think De La Fontaine just got sent. Dan Poulin just went around him. Poulin also falling down the order. So a bit of contact, and that's bringing the 333 down pit road.
Goodness, we'll pull up a replay of that very, very briefly, and I'll get on to that now.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of an interesting thing to watch out for. Was there contact? Usually haven't seen that too much of tonight, but turn 19 is one of those areas where, depending on how hard you hit the brakes, you might have someone to give you a shuffle to the rear end. For 10, by the way, look at a shuffle, look at second. Here he goes, forces the send. Max Maisonneuve goes wide, and there goes the Lexus for second. But not done yet.
Yes, indeed. The Aston Martin is right back in the fight as Maisonneuve gets the job done. Yes, I think he does. He manages to defend it. Fortin just runs wide, unfortunately, carrying a little bit too much momentum. That Lexus is heavy, and you can tell the MRT team is going to be cheering, then gasping, and then cheering once more. Maisonneuve, though, I will say, has a lot of work to do if he wants to hold this position, it looks like, moving forward.
But then really wants to get the spot back once again in the midst of this panic. See him trying to diamond out the corner, reset things up with Maisonneuve. They already know that Porsche Chamberlain has ran away with it by 8 seconds. Looking for a great debut is all you can really say when it comes to the Lexus here tonight, in terms of making an impact and getting potentially well above some of those who actually have run just a couple races, like 3, for example. There's a chance to get up as high with a decent run like this into 28th, which doesn't sound like a lot, Mike, but it's a start.
It certainly is. There's tons of drivers on this field, and that's what we absolutely love to see. Now, I do have an update, by the way, on that De La Fontaine incident, and it was Dan Poulin. We do have that replay ready to roll here, and we'll be getting to it very, very shortly. It's a bit of an ugly one, unfortunately, as we saw Dan Poulin. He was involved in that incident a little bit earlier, and so getting caught up here in a second is going to be, well, a bit of an unfortunate reality. So here we go. Down the back bit now and into the final sector, we see the Porsche Poulin just go for a gap again that was technically there, but in reality wasn't. So as that move obviously is done, rejoins the track, and that is going to be that. Unfortunate for De La Fontaine, and frustration, I would imagine, underneath that helmet.
We just had Legrand just park it, though, as well. He just peeled down in the past couple minutes. So the 263, who was a top 10 car to start off the day, Mike, dropped down with incidents, has now joined the DNF list. That's the second of the day. That will be out of the race, joining the let, which, remember, on the pylon would be scored below the DNSs.
Yeah, you absolutely hate to see it. No matter what happens in these races, even with the incidents, even with the collisions, I always incentivize drivers, finish the race. A point is a point, and especially as we get down to these final few races, every single point matters. You can't be afforded to be giving them up just like that. And with 30 minutes left, you might as well get to the checkered flag. This is COTA. Anything can happen in racing, and it normally doesn't, especially at COTA. This is a track, it's an endurance track, let's just put it that way. And it claims, I don't want to say the weak, but it certainly requires the strong to survive.
Yeah. Gotta love the engine sounds, by the way, for those watching the broadcast. It's an interesting sound because not every sim has the Lexus yet.
True. Yeah, not every sim has the most recent one as well, as I think this is the newest model of the Lexus, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, hopefully we see that, of course, with the other sims coming out and the other big titles. But I do love to see the solid machinery that we have out there.
Reason it rolled out there was wanted everyone to hear the same roars. And look at that! Max Maisonneuve goes way wide again! This time, it will cost him second for sure. Did he get spooked? Or did he just miss the corner?
Yeah, I think he just missed the corner. That's just the mistakes adding up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pulling into the pit lane almost immediately now. It's a little too early still. We're only on lap 20. I see a request from Chamberlain. Now, that could be due to the fact that he is just changing basically settings. As, of course, anytime you pull up that pit setting board, you'll be in that requested screen. So not necessarily representative that they are coming in on this lap. So I would expect Chamberlain to stay out for a good while, especially due to the fact that their virtual energy is still around the 20%. I think Fortin around 18, Massenave around 20. Everybody in the top is around that 20% marker. So still a ways to go before they come in. And with that, I think that certainly says to me, I don't think any of these drivers are taking tires.
Yeah. See a whole huge wave. Laporte was zip on by Max Masoner, who does peel one down for service. So we are now going to see these leaders really check their way on in. Max Masoner looking to limit the damage from his situation. That puts Laporte up in the top 3 as into the box goes the 116, and it wasn't lined up with the spots on the track.
Yeah, you can see that. Practice your pit entries, everybody. And this is going back to something that I like to say at least once a broadcast, or at least I try to. If you go and drive this track for hours and hours and hours at a time, practice driving into the pit lane once, twice, maybe thrice. It will help you out wonders. And in this instance, Massenave didn't practice his pit entries enough. Sorry, Max, to call you out, but that's a few tenths that is just avoidable to lose. No reason to have that happen.
Just had a few different drivers have issues pop up, including potentially your race leader. Chamberlain has a notice stopped on the track that's popped up here. Is something going on with the leader because the intervals are going wild? No. So something going on for a second that spooked a couple different drivers. Dylan Fontaine and John Benecki both having issues with the same thing at the same time. But it looks like everything's gone well. Might have been a technical blip for the race leaders. You do not want that as the leader when you have a chance by next round to secure a championship or race early.
No, but thankfully for Xavier Chamberlain, he's got enough of a buffer to stop on track for, well, 9 seconds and still be in the lead. So he's at least got a buffer for any mistakes. But you do, it starts to make you worried when your equipment starts failing, your internet starts going, you think, oh, is it going to happen again? I don't know, but hopefully for them, it certainly doesn't. I have an update, by the way, on the Massenave and Fortin incident that had happened. I wouldn't call it an incident.
Oh, hold on. Larson just sent somebody. Ravel just got sent by Larson with a bump in the corner. Larson had lost a few spots recently, and well, the 202 again pays the price.
We'll pull that one up instead. Oh my goodness. We'll get that replay up very, very briefly. This is an unlucky night for that Lexus. My goodness. Has been knocked down, then got back up again, and then got knocked down again. So let's hope for the best as we move forward.
Now the reason Larson was down here is the Ori pit. But this is for position net. Yeah, Max Masoner is right in front of Larson for position here. Is this because the pit stops? Yes, 28 seconds for Max Masoner, 18 for Larson.
Yeah, and that's maybe due to taking less tires. I wonder if that's 2 tires compared to 4 tires and the difference that made. But either way, I do have a replay of that incident here that we can take a look at. And yep, it is unfortunately an ugly one. So that'll be coming up here very, very briefly on your screens. And as we get into it, we can see this is the 202 confidently leading ahead of Larson. And as we go into the final few corners, a little bit of a drift wide for the 202, and Larson finds the rear bumper. A simple incident, but an effective one. And to be honest, it's a hard one to call. Was that Larson's fault? It's probably. Ravel, though, definitely did drift a little bit wide, and the results are the same, I guess is how you look at it. But Ravel back down to 10th, and then he did come in, I think, for his pit stop as well.
So that we'll see a little bit more chaos for the two. Their second time, by the way, involved in the reason the 202 spins. Max Masoner, even with the heavier fuel load, seems like he's got the quicker car here. He's already just about, if not already, broken the draft distance, Mike, when it comes to Larson.
Yeah, very much so. This is a comfortable sort of lead, I would say, at this point. You just have to keep going if you're Massenet. Really, just keep an eye on the road ahead of you. Don't worry about Larson. Don't even think about him at this point. Just keep on driving, and if the cards come to him, they do. But I think for right now, Massenet has the pace. We can see that gap is getting extended, and I would expect to keep that going. Chamberlain into the lane, by the way, on lap 23. So coming in and immediately being set back down and out. So as predicted, no tires being taken for our leader.
So off and away, trying to save more time in the lane. Delta will end up being, like Larson, about 17, 18 seconds in the pit lane for the box itself at least. That will shuffle him by a decent gap here. Interval, that's going to be massive. That's 18, 19 seconds right now. That is impressive.
It is, however, well, okay. I'm about to justify it. I'm going to do the commentator thing. Massenet is on fresh tires.
Yes.
Now, is that 18 seconds, 19 seconds fresh tires? Probably not. But he is on fresh tires, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and how much that factors in is going to be an interesting thing, because remember we talked about fall-off is 1.2 seconds. You're going to have to work, of course, on the cold tires for a few laps in terms of the delta, but there is a chance of a pick-me-up. We'll have to find out where the pace really settles in for the 93 in a moment or so. But with 24 minutes to go, he's still your net race leader. Herger right now trying to chase down Ravel. Remember, Belmonto's still having to take service, despite getting bounced around like a bouncy ball today. That 202 has really showed resiliency with all the contact. And he'll have it in another driver try for a moment. No, not close enough for the overlap.
Not just yet. Oh, I thought for some reason you got to be careful. Ravel's giving me a scare every now and then. He's defensive, very defensive on this occasion, as well as he covers that inside off fully. And by the way, an update on Massenet of what he would need, I think, is about 1.5 seconds per lap. And that's to catch, by the way, by the end of this race. So realistically speaking, he needs to be around 2 seconds a lap quicker and then overtake. So, a long way, basically. Oh, goodness, again, we see the aggression in this top 10. JP Ravel has been involved in some incidents, and most of the incidents not his fault, I would say, but here he's maybe driving with a chip on his shoulder and saying, I'm trying to make up some ground now, and I want to do it quickly. He did request his pit stop here, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the next few laps, and especially with the traffic that he's dealing with.
Yeah, right now, find out there's the peel down. Nope. Gotta keep on going. No, there is. A little bit late on the dive this time. Almost took the angle in. But the 202 will get himself to safety. Looked to have to pump with the brakes for a split second to avoid any potential penalties on the pit entry. So he'll chug his way down the paddock into the lane. 25 cars still running, by the way, for those just tuning in for today. We've had 2 DNFs, a few DNSs, and a missed box for the 202 will cost him a couple seconds more in the lane. Right now, it is Pretender leads, but is yet to pit. He's got less than 3% left on virtual energy as we go. And that will mean a couple seconds shorter stop possibly for the 99. There's a chance that Lexus, for sure, holds on to net second because the tire call from Max Masoner.
Yeah, I certainly think so. And assuming that Cyril does go for the no tire strategy, which I do think they will, the Lexus is quite it's very handy when it comes to keeping its tires in check. So it will be one of the favorites for going for that single stint or single pit stop plus no tire strategy. But as we go, we'll have an opportunity to find out. Into the pit lane goes Fortin. It looked clean, got stopped very early, so playing it extremely safe. And surprisingly to me, Pierre Laporte comes in. 6% left, could have went one more lap, decides not to.
Yeah, an interesting call, but remember he was close on the percentages, under 6%. For 10 was under 2%. might not even make the lap. That gives Steve Ward the advantage. He's got himself 7%. He's done a really good job saving some gas and potentially some virtual energy over the course of this run, because he can go a lot farther than a lot of these drivers by another lap or two.
Yeah, very much so. Now, I actually kind of had a thought of why they would come in on that energy. I think the tire wear is just getting to be too bad, but again, they're coming in for no tires, so that's probably not the case, although Desormeaux, not in pit lane, excuse me, still requesting. Got the things confused there. But no, I don't think anyone's taking tires at this point. It would be pointless. There's not even enough time to get heat into the tires. Nevertheless, run them to their fullest extent. So just go for the quick swap and go. And maybe, I guess, you cool your tires down when you come through pit lane. This is where the strategy, I will say, is definitely a little above my pay grade.
Yeah, liking this in terms of the 93 speed, absolutely, over the course of this, by the way. Right now, his net advantage still 8 seconds from 10. By the way, Laporte did cycle ahead of Max Mason with the pit call to potentially be in a spot to take away the podium. There's the battle going on track. Remember, Philippe Maisonneuve yet to pit. He's been very quiet today, by the way, that 177 has. Haven't really talked about too much of him since the opening round of the season. That's been part because with his 30th place run in the 177 last time out, Mike, that dropped him out of the top 10 in the point standings for the first time all season. He had been around 10th for every other race. One bad race cost him so much ground for the standings.
Yeah, he's averaged right around that 10th position pretty much, I would say, throughout the entirety. And then, yeah, that P30 being the elephant sitting on the top of his head, costing him a tremendous amount of points. He'd probably be sitting somewhere around 7th, right around Francois Richard or Guillermo Pirret as well. So some drivers, even Stefan de la Fontaine, I would say, could be potentially in the running for. But there's still more races to go, and I think there's a couple drivers that are not taking part in the next race up in the higher points position, so there's still opportunities to gain back. You just got to have a good result here. Whoa, my Dan Poulin, he has been involved with his fair share of incidents this race, and also involving this man on your screen as well, De La Fontaine, speak of the devil. And now pass is being made, Dan Poulin back up ahead. De La Fontaine, I don't think he's going to be able to gain back. I think that tire disadvantage is just going to be too much.
Yep, at this point, you're just hoping for a miracle. I don't know, a rainstorm, which is not likely here today in the forecast. Just something, really change up the variables to have a shot at maybe picking off a couple more spots. But really, chances going to be difficult. I think right now, here Etienne Laporte going to be pressurized here because he's got P3 net. But remember, the fresh tires you talked about, Mike, they're closing. Look at that interval, close a little bit by bit. It's still 2.1 seconds, but it's going down a little bit every corner.
It's certainly doable. And Maisonneuve, I would imagine, is driving like a bat out of hell right now. It's purple first sector as well, so he's really trying to get everything that he possibly can. Sector 1 being the most abrasive, being the highest tire wear part of the circuit. So wringing the neck out of this machine is what he's doing. Now, still though, a lot of work to do. It's one thing to catch, it's certainly another to pass. And when you're trying to pass the likes of Pierre Laporte, that's a tough battle. Now, I would think that the tire advantage will be enough. I think at the end of this one, the Lamborghini has chewed its way through its tires, and it is on old rubber, so almost without a doubt, Maisonneuve probably going to get by without a fight. Laporte knows his battle, he knows his ground, so we'll just have to see how this one plays out. But as we catch up into the first corner, it's more than likely going to be in the S's where you really see the difference in traction here. So if we just stay on board or go on board with Maisonneuve when we get to that point, I think that'll be a very fair sharing of what these struggles are like for Laporte currently.
Difference of fresh tires for sold tires. You see how much on the windshield screen the marbles are building up on it. Some little scrapes. believe something just bounced off the windshield now. But right now, he is digging. Last time by, he was a grand total of 1.6 seconds quicker. And right now, he is attacking these curves a lot more aggressively, and it's sticking with the extra grip in. They've got lap traffic of Zach Wolf ahead. That will factor in too.
Look at that. Nearly, 6/10. Okay, let's make that 5/10 as we nearly bin the car into the barrier at the end of the S's. That's how hard Max is pushing right now. That is an incredible amount of time gained. In fact, actually, he lost a lot of time with that little wiggle that he had, almost putting it into the wall. But still, gaining time is what he needs to do, and avoiding those little wiggles is going to be crucial. Thankfully, Pierre Laporte actually caught Zach Wolf at the best opportunity he could. Down on the back stretch, got a little bit of a slipstream even down the back straight. And there you can see Zach gets on the brakes, allows both drivers to go through, but it's Massanev who's now back to that pretty much 1.5 second gap. It's closing in and out, and especially through this last sector, you're going to see gains. But through Sector 1 and Sector 3, those are the two that you want to keep an eye on. That is where we're going to see those gaps close immensely.
Pit Road has seen the cycle fully complete, by the way, in the past couple minutes during that discussion point. Here's a look at the order. Remember, Jared Bergen amongst those who had to pit twice today is last on track, but it's Chamberlain, it's Portend, you have Laporte, you have Max Masoner, you have Larson in the top 5 as we go. Right now, closest battle on the track for up at the front is on screen. Masoner starting to struggle a little bit on the close-up. Both cars last time by at invalidated lap times, though. Will there be an opportunity? You have to think so, but the question will be where that presents itself with the boss man. Here is Herger battling with Steve Ward. Meanwhile, this is for 7th. Up the hillside of turn 1. Herger's got the preferred groove, and Ward lets him send it.
Yeah, not too much issues to be found for Herger. He gets on by and sails through really without any contention whatsoever. Almost looking like Patrick Herger's on new tires and Stephen Ward isn't. Oh wait, that's exactly what we're seeing. Yes, that is the power of new tires. Herger gets by. Now, we haven't seen that though with Massanev, and actually as we speak, I think we are seeing that with Massanev. I think he has gotten alongside and he has gotten by through the S's. That must have been a push. Now though, Pierre Laporte, gotta tip my hat for some respect, trying to fight back, but it doesn't matter. He had the inside line. Pierre, not even with enough grip to make it work that way. The Aston Martin on the fresh rubber powers its way through the outside line and takes it by force. That is P3 gain for Massanev. Laporte back to the inside. He's thinking about it, but the stopping power just isn't there for the Bull at this point.
Yep, at this point, just showcases how good the Aston Martin has been tonight for the 116. Now, huge challenge, closing up 4 seconds. They lost a second in that battle alone. Is that potentially possible over the course of 12 minutes to close up 4 seconds? You're talking about a massive amount of speed needed there, Mike, to have a chance at seconds down.
Possible and probable are two different things. Possible, yes, absolutely. Probable, we'll see. This is Steve Ward and Herger back at it. Steve Ward is trying to show that old tires are the new way, and then trying to show that his front bumper is a battering ram. My goodness, nearly takes Patrick Herger out. In fact, forces him wide. Patrick says, get off me. Just go if that's the case. Steve Ward got to clean it up a little bit. Oh, as he is pushing way harder than he needs to right now. Old tires, no grip, and Patrick Herger is sitting back and just waiting for a mistake to happen so he can go by without any issue.
Again. By the way, Mal, we're having a little bit of a battle. This is for 15th to keep up the average. Remember, Morrow has been bounced around a fair bit tonight. Drive through, by the way, for Russo has been staying on the pylon for the past little bit. And I believe he's just had some issues because he's falling down your pylon. Maybe have just gone down for said drive through. But this is the beauty of some of the battling towards the end of the race. You better find a way to get it done cleanly here with only a few minutes to go. Track temperature blazing hot, mind you. These tires gotta be screaming for those on the no tire calls.
Yes, they are. But the advantage of that is everybody has no tires. So it's an even playing field. Obviously, we have the couple outliers that did take tires and are tearing their way through the field currently, but at a cost of a tremendous amount of time lost in the pit lane. I think the strategy overall tonight was the no tires. I say that, and again, Steve Ward and Patrick Herger trying to, well, Steve's trying to prove me wrong here. Patrick is just trying to survive at this point, not get into a collision with a fellow McLaren. Let's see how that works out for him. Down the back stretch, he gets the move done, goes back to the outside, leaves the inside open if Steve Ward wants to force his way in, but I think the writing is on the walls. Patrick Herger makes the move. Now, will it stick?
Answer is looking like it will stick because Ward just got loose, had a little bit of the bubbles, and Ward to hopefully hold on to 8th position. Not gonna have too much pressure from Philippe Maisonneuve unless there's a major mistake at this point.
But right, sorry.
You go ahead.
I do have a replay of that Maisonneuve incident as well, where we saw the overtake, gaining him up into 2nd position. An aggressive one, you could definitely say when we do take a look at it. Steve Ward also being quite aggressive, as we see on the screen, going back up the hill one more time. But here is that replay. Looking into the S's, we see how much he's already gained. He was nearly a 2nd behind. A little tiny mistake for Pierre, and capitalizes immediately, gets to the inside, and does not waste any time whatsoever. Finds his way up in a 2nd. That's Laporte. Oh, ignore that. That's not... Ignore that. That didn't happen.
Okay, sure.
I don't know what LMU was thinking on that last little bit there. All right.
It was thinking computer go burr.
Yes. Laporte and Maisonneuve are both fine. There was no contact made, so ignore that.
Yeah. Will say, as Ward still digs here, I think almost this is towards the balance of the setup more than anything if Ward's able to keep up like this. Right now, Herger covering off these lines, though, parks the bus, takes away Ward's ability to hit the gas. Yet again, Herger has the advantage to maybe hold on here, but it's trying to hold off the draft attempts now for Ward that may come into play.
Yeah, and I don't think that Ward has the grip. But again, he proved me wrong on the last occasion. I think now he's finally settled it in. The only thing, if I was in Patrick Herger's situation, I can clearly see Patrick is very much like me. He likes to follow. He's not that great at leading. And it's a tough battle when you have somebody that's, you know, you're faster than, but then they start following you, put that pressure on, you start making mistakes. It's a difficult position to be in for Patrick Herger, but you just got to get that 1 second gap, gain enough to break the toe, and that little mistake right there from Steve Ward might do it. Keep it up, keep consistent, and just keep plugging along.
Their drive-through. Bergen just picked up one. He was the car running dead last, by the way. So that takes away any chance to get to David Pittman. So that's a bit disappointing. Takes away an opportunity to maybe pick up one more spot with less than 7 minutes remaining. But I mean, we haven't seen too many drive-throughs, as many as tonight. Tonight's definitely the season high for drive-through penalties.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, coming into tonight, I expected that. There's Steve Ward almost getting one himself. That is what he has to be careful of right now. And I think the writing, again, on the walls, it has been for a while now, but at this point there's a absolute MLA format essay being written on the wall. And so he can certainly get it done at this point. Now, Battle for P2 underway. You asked before, was it enough? Did we have enough time for Maisonneuve to catch Fortin? And well, here we are. The advantage, theoretically and almost certainly, is in Maisonneuve's favor right now.
We're seeing it right now with this gap down to about a second. Lap traffic is ahead, but Max Maisonneuve still is in a good spot to make the send. He gained a 10th alone coming into the arena section. That's how deep he's able to send it. Look at how he's able to plant it.
trying to get it on the loud hammer. Around the outside, he goes through the back marker. The AMG, though, not in a great spot here. It's dicey, but thankfully they got out of the way very, very lightly. Massenev loses some time, but gains confidence. This is where you can see 6 minutes left, 5.5 minutes left, give or take. Just plug along. We saw earlier, I think, Massenev driving a little bit too hard. When he was trying to overtake Pierre Laporte, I think what I was going to say before he got the move done is he just has to drive his race right now. He knows that he's quicker. You don't need to try to be quicker than Cyril Fortin. Just be quicker. You have better grip. You have the advantage. Late braking is your friend. Oh, and the accelerator is not, as clearly Massenev is struggling for grip as well.
Yeah, a little bit right now, but remember, he's completely on fly mode. Maurer, by the way, just flew over the curves because he's picking up 14th. Here's Cotillier trying to hug the outside. No, Maurer gets crossed over and contact. Maurer gets turned. Maurer spun the wrong way around. He stops on the track, and he is in a bad spot to turn around.
Yeah. Manages to get it around safely, nobody else involved, but Courtier is going to be looking at the face of the stewards going forward. Massenev currently looking at the side panel of Fortin as he's trying to find moves everywhere you look. 4 minutes left in this race, and everything is unfolding simultaneously, making the job of our producer, Sagar Bakshi, very, very difficult as well, as we can see. But getting all of the pictures on screen and covering all the battles. Let's see Massenev to the outside. We saw him power through it before. I don't think he's close enough on this occasion, but the momentum in his favor. Oh, hold that thought. Goes to the outside once more through the arena sector. Can he get it done? This is an uncharacteristic overtake, to say the least. And, well, it doesn't work out just yet. Maybe into the horseshoe, though, Justin? I think he can make it work.
I think so, too. If not, especially going to be in play for the end of turn 12. Let's see here. Max Maisonneuve going deeper in. Coming up towards turn 20. Too far for 20, but will be in a good spot maybe for one also. A little bit too high, though, to take away that opportunity. 3 minutes to go. We're talking about the 2 laps to go.
A little too hot into the final corner for Maisonneuve is not going to allow the exit he wanted. He needs to prioritize slow in, fast out. Meanwhile, there's some issues that looks like going on up ahead, and that's going to be in the mind of Massenev. We got back markers playing a role, and the back markers battling is never what you want to see when you're in a battle for a podium. Fortin, though, you got to give credit where credit's due. Doing an incredible job so far, but look at the tire difference through the S's. This is where the time is made. Fortin literally sliding through the corners, struggling to keep any sort of traction whatsoever. Massenev planted as can be, and like a tall oak tree, I think this is his time to blossom. Down the hill and into the braking zone. Is he going to be able to find the inside? Yes, he is. Can he get late enough on the brakes? Yes, he can. And the move almost certainly done.
Slices, dices, gets it done. Coming up to the white flag, likely this time by, will be. In fact, based on the interval, will the Lexus get the send back, though? Up the lawn straight away. There's the look to the inside for 12. Fortin looking, trying to plant it. Max Maisonneuve lets him send it, gets him the spot back, and he'll have to do it again. But a lap and a third to go as the Aston Martin looks to reset, and they got heavy traffic layered ahead to deal with.
I'm actually very surprised that Maisonneuve left that gap open. That was a avoidable mistake, I think, and to be honest, if he was just a little more aggressive, close that gap up, there's no way he would have lost the position. With the extra grip, with the extra tire wear that he has in his favor, it's just a little bit of an interesting decision. It could have just been a mistake, to be honest. Now, this is Christopher Larson, the other one of our drivers that we saw out there, who is on a tear and trying to make up as much ground as he can. Has the likes of Pierre Laporte to contend with right now. And can he make this new tire advantage into a reality? Wait, has he stopped yet, Christopher Larson?
Larson, yes. Yes, he has. Everybody remember stop. So don't panic about that for that circumstance. The only driver concerned about fuel is Ravel. He's at under 6% on virtual energy. Less than 30 seconds now coming up on the clock. Final time around should be coming up to the checkers this time through. Larson still providing pressure. Chamberlain up by more than 11 seconds with a sea of lap cars between him and victory. All while second is still not done.
Yeah, to be fair, we haven't even talked about Xavier Chamberlain in this race, have we? At least for the past 30 minutes. He has done an incredible job. I mean, as predicted, pretty much to a T, sailed his way all the way through. Larson and Laporte all over each other, though, at this stage, and heading into the braking zone. This is the opportunity. Larson, can you make it work? He sells the dummy to the outside and makes the move on the in. Almost makes contact, maybe does make contact on the exit. This is going to be a side draft fest. And with just enough room being left at the corner, it looks like Larson is going to still lose out.
Max Masonerv has taken away second on the air side of the straightaway, but only a moment. Side by side with a squeeze. Contact once again for second. Fortin tries to hold the outside for the arena section. Max Masonerv gets crossed over. He spins it out. Max Masonerv spins from the podium into the grass. Can Larson get there? No, the gap is now a problem. They wrecked again. They wrecked again for fourth.
I don't even know what to say at this point, but Xavier Chamberlain is absolutely going to be winning this. We're going to pull that replay up as soon as we can. My goodness.
Two different wrecks at the same time, but it's a perfect day for the Porsche. It's Xavier Chamberlain who gets it done at COTA and adds on to the win streak for him this season. That is 3 consecutive victories. For 10 will get himself on the podium. Max Masonerv gets destroyed at the line.
Goodness me. What a race. What a finish to this race. By the way, I do have that replay ready of the incident between Larson and Laporte. This is an ugly one as well. So once we get into this here, we'll see down the back stretch, Larson weaving around like a knitting grandma, finds his way to the inside here. He's a late lunge down to the inside of Laporte, makes contact initially. Laporte loses it. That's going to give the advantage to Larson, but hold my beer, says Laporte, and heads right into the back bumper of Larson. The spin ensues, and they look at each other very, very awkwardly and presumably frustrated, I would imagine, in the AMG joining the conversation. What a final lap, Justin.
Now race to the end for Russo. Will get the drag race, looks like. In regards to that position, ahead of Silva by 70 seconds. Bacon was pretty close to him, as most of the drivers will just pick up the rubber and hope to toss into the back seat. What a finish here today at Circuit of the Americas. The final lap for the battles for the podiums did not work out great for some. Here's a look at how it looks. Chamberlain gets the win by over 4.8 seconds. That's a little bit lower than what we were expecting. I think may have been slower in the final lap for the last sector. But either way, Poten gets second spot. Max Masonerv holds on to third. His tire blew up afterwards. Christopher Larson and P.E. Laporte are amongst your top 5. Deserneau, Herger, Ward, Masonerv, and Ravel are a part of your top 10. That was wild. Let's just say that for the top 10.
Yeah, Ravel just sneaking into 10th there, and behind him, Salmore and Sharon in P11 for their debut race. Dan Poulin in 12th with Stefan Delafontaine, a race of what could have been. They finished where they started. Cedric Courtier finishes in 14th position with Andre Moreau behind him in 15th. A solid 7 positions gained. Carl Morrow in 16th. John Beneke, 10 positions gained in 17th. That is a great drive for him. Zach Wolf also 5 positions gained, doing an incredible job in the Lamborghini, up to 18th. Marc-Andre Hamel 1 position gained for 19th, and Alex Bacon rounding out your top 20.
21st goes to Russo. Johan Silva. Sa had 2 different drive-throughs. Pittman and Jerry Bergen were the error entries here today in what was a chaotic one, to say the very least, Mike. Waiting to hear from some of the drivers after all the wildness, hearing that Larson, for one of his hits with Ravel, got in the ABS, he said, originally. Do you think the ABS may have factored in on some of this?
No. Is my honest opinion. I love the excuse. Let me just say this. It may be true. I don't know. I'm not him. But it's a very racing driver excuse. Let's just put it that way.
Still looking to see who we would be able to speak with here in the next moments or so. But in terms of the race itself here, Mike, your thoughts on how things went down here at Circuit of the Americas. It was pretty tame in the top 10, I will say, until the final minutes.
I'll be honest, it was pretty much to be expected to a T until the penultimate lap. Then everything changed, and all of a sudden, people forgot how to drive, people wanted to go. It was essentially the last lap of their career for some. And yeah, we saw some incidents. I will say it was an exciting finish to the end, with the COTA being typically a track that is more of a strategic battling track. You don't see as many fights on track as normal other circuits, for example, your spas. But we saw a lot here tonight, and I am thoroughly excited. And honestly, that was a great little battle towards the end.
Absolutely, especially at a track like this. But one of the major discussion points have to come into play here is how everything's going to look in terms of the points coming into the penultimate race. Well, things could really shuffle, to say the very least. Those points tallies still need to be officialized over the course of this one, Mike. But next time out is going to continue what's expected to be a wild ride, because the next race on the schedule, specifically, it's a Spa day. It's Spa.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. We head all the way over to Belgium, flying over the ocean to go into a one of, if not the greatest circuit of all time, barring a few, obviously. There's some arguable ones, maybe the last track that we have on the calendar, wink wink, Circuit de la Sarthe. But Spa, as I just mentioned, this is a track where we're going to see passing. We're going to see a lot of it. We're going to see battling, we're going to see contact, and everything in between. That is a track that never fails to deliver. You can pretty much make a pass on, give or take, any corner on Spa, and we're going to see that, I suspect, with 35 drivers on the grid in this race. More to come in the next, and if you want to sign up for that yourself, head down to the description, hit that SimGrid link, and get involved here with Simu Nation.
Tonight was a wild run, to say the least, at the very end, but overall, some good fun here on V-Speed for tonight's coverage. I'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage of Simu Nation and the LMGT3 Masters. Again, tonight's coverage powered by NOX Gaming and brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing here from COTA. But it's time to say goodbye. For our producers tonight, and Scorbacci, for my co-announcer Mike Nas, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching tonight's action of Simu Nation. We'll see you next time in a couple weeks after Easter.